Good morning, all. I am Amarnath, and I am here to give a presentation on Lucy Kirkwood's play Chimerica. This is the famous photograph Tank Man, and it plays a huge role in the play we are about to look into. Chimerica is a five-act play written by Lucy Kirkwood. It was written it was written over a period of 6 years and presented on stage in 2013. It talks about the relationship between China and America and how they are fighting out for the dominance in the particular present political landscape. It premiered at Almeida Theatre, London. There is also a four-part mini-series based on the play. It was released in 2019, but there are changes from the script of the play or the play they presented and the series because she had to update it for the changes that happened since the 2013. There were some major changes that happened in the relation between China and America. She took around 6 years to complete it. She was commissioned to write a play on this particular theme in 2006, and she was only able to present it on the stage in 2013. She took a long time, and it is usually the way how she works. If we look into her interviews, we will realize that she have often stated how she takes such a long time to come up with plays. She plays with the ideas and she writes during the early morning, like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. time period. Chimerica is a word originally coined by Neil Ferguson and Moritz. So, Chimerica as a word was originally coined by Neil Ferguson and Moritz Sklularic, and it refers to the socio-political relationship of both nations, like China and America, therefore the name Chimerica. The play follows Joe Scofield. He is a photojournalist, and this particular play takes place in a fictional world where there are actually 7 known copies of the photograph called Tangman. Actually, there is only 6 known photographs, and this particular photo was taken at Tiananmen Square in 1989. There was a student protest in 1989, and it didn't bode well for the people who took part in the protest. They stood up against the government stood up against them, and government even brought in the army to put an end to the protest, and it really had a tragic end. As since that day, they were executed. The people who took part in protest were hunted down and executed. Most of them. The play is set in two timelines. There is one in 1989 and another in 2012. The play is set in two places, China and America. We in 1989 follow Zhou, Zhang Lin, and Liu Li. And in 2012, we follow Zhou and Lin, Zhang Lin. So, the particular story of Zhou in 1989, it entirely takes place in China. The story in 2012 takes place in China and America. Now, the Zhou story have some other important thing also, that is it takes place during the presidential election of Barack Obama and Mitt Romney. The election they were fought between these two. So it is the second presidential election that is happening. Like the second time Barack Obama stood up for being elected as the president. We go on to characters and synopsis. Now these are mostly all of the characters who appear in the play, a detailed character analysis of the main characters or the characters I found to be main and central are given in the PDF I provided yesterday in the group. The play mainly follows two characters, just as I told earlier. There are two characters main, They are Joe Scofield and Zhang Lin. Joe Scofield is on a mission to find the man he admires. He admires the man in the photograph, Tank Man, because he is the central figure. The interesting thing about this photograph is that although there are seven known copies in the play, none of them captures the face of this man. In none of them his face is clear. And he thinks that an article on this particular man can rejuvenate his career. It's like this was the only photograph that was famous and popular, taken by Joe Scofield. He was actually 19 at that time. But from that point to 23 years later, when he's 40 years old, there is no other photograph. Like nothing else is making him famous or anything. Thinking that an article on the man can rejuvenate his career. It's been 21 years or like 21 or 23 years later, this particular incident. He thinks that, okay, this particular photo can help me to gain back my popularity and fame. Zhang Lin is a man from China and he is still reeling from the incidents of 1989. He lost his wife in that protest. His wife died, and he hallucinates that his wife stays inside his fridge. That is a real element to this particular play. The hallucination which Zhang Ling has of his wife being inside his refrigerator. So there is this one scene where he opens the refrigerator and goes to take beer inside it, and we see that Liu Li, his wife, is inside it, and she's handing him the beer. Tessa Kendrick is a profiler for an American MNC. The next character. She is a profiler for American MNC. Now, MNC is obviously a multinational corporation. And a profiler is a person who studies people, the economical habit of them, the academical habits, their any forms of habits. They study the people and they group them. Her recent project is to profile or make a profile of the Chinese population. There is a American company that wants to enter the Chinese market. Like the company is a bank-based company. They are producing credit cards. So therefore, they want to study how the people of China and how their economical point of view works in order to introduce their particular credit card in the most effective manner possible. And there are hints that Tessa is an alcoholic and also she may be taking drugs. Then comes Mel. Now you will notice that here I haven't utilized the full names of many characters, but you can find it in the character analysis. Mel is Mel Stanwyck. He's a writer for the newspaper where Joe works. Joe takes the photographs, Mel writes. They are good friends. Liu Li is the wife of Zhang Lin. She died during the 1989 incident or the protest. Now we see that she is more of like an ideal character of or an archetypal character, a smart, pregnant woman. She's a girl. She's really young, and when this particular incident happened, she's pregnant, and we can see her husband Zhang Lin really fussing over her. She making fun of him and all. Now, at times the all of the time we see this particular character, she's happy, and this can be like she is worried, but this worried for other reasons. The one thing is we see that the students were on a hunger strike, and yet Zhang Lin is making Liu Li eat peaches, and that is when we find out that she's actually pregnant. And all of the time, she's this happy go lucky kind of figure, and this can be justified because this is a version of Liu Li that is in the mind of Zhang Lin. So he only remembers the good sides of her. So she is an ideal character who stays inside Zhang Lin's mind. Then comes Zhang Wei, Zhang Lin's brother, and he is really, really proud of his son, Benny. Benny is now in America and he is like studying at Harvard. He received a scholarship. Frank is the editor of the newspaper where Joe and Mel works, and this is said to be a very prestigious newspaper. Ming Xiaoli is a neighbor of Zhang Lin, and he has a really neighborly, really good relationship with this particular neighbor. Peng Si is an illegal immigrant and he runs a flower shop in America. He is the brother of Wang Pengfei. Maria Dubeke is a Democrat senator who belongs to the Democrat Party, and there are rumors that if Barack Obama wins this election, the education department will be given to her. David Barker is her legislative assistant. Mary Chang, she was previously an employee in the Beijing Evening News. Beijing Evening News is a leading newspaper of China. And one day a woman came to place an advertisement. And this particular advertisement, like Mary Chang didn't knew what it contained, and this got her fired from the newspaper. Chinese government fired her from the newspaper. And later she was unemployed and therefore someone took advantage of her. Like took advantage means he like cheated her by offering her a job, and instead of giving her a job at a newspaper as she thought, she ended up at a strippers club and she is a stripper now. Feng Meihui, she owns a fish stall in the Chinatown in America and she helps illegal immigrants to enter America. She has some of her relatives within the passport office and all, so they help them enter enter America. Jennifer is the daughter of Feng Meihui. Then we have Michelle, who is an Asian American NYPD cop, and she helps Joe to get information on Feng Meihui. Now, the reason why Joe needed information on Feng Meihui will be looked later in the PPT. Officer Hyatt is actually a working partner of Michelle. This is Joe Scofield, Zhang Lin. Now, someone or some of you may not think that I have seen this guy somewhere else. Yes, he is there in Doctor Strange as well as Avenger movies. This is Liuli, Tessa Kendrick, and this is Joe, Mel, Frank, Doreen. Doreen is the personal assistant of Frank. Obviously, this is from a different presentation of this particular play. That means different staging of the play. As you can see, the characters of Mel and Joe are different here. This is Feng Meihui and Jennifer. The one sitting on the chair is Meihui, and the one sitting down is her daughter Jennifer. Now, one thing that I forgot to mention is that in China, the surnames come first. The actual name, the thing that we call first name, comes second. So therefore, if a person is called Feng Meihui, her actual name is Meihui and Feng is the surname. That is why the brothers Zhang Lin and Zhang Wei have the same first name, because that is not their first name, that is their surname. The one standing beside is Zhang Wei. You can see the hallucinated figure of Liu behind them. Those are the photographs. Now we move on to the synopsis. The play begins on 5th June 1989, the day the picture of Tankman was taken by different photographers, and the rest is history. A young correspondent is talking to his editor over the fate of his report. Now, Joe is 19 years old and he's really tense that all this work which he has put into these photographs and everything will pay off really well, that they will make it one of the major news, and they will not reduce it into page 6 or page 3. His report when he noticed something outside his window. So he's really talking to his editor, and his editor is saying that, okay, yeah, you are right. It will be on the first page because it is about a nation letting atrocities or doing atrocities to their own citizens. It will definitely come on the first page. That's when he noticed something outside his window. So he sees a man is in the middle of the road and trying to block the path of tanks. He clicks the picture and hides it before the soldiers enter his room. Now we can listen as he is telephoning his editor. We can listen that there is someone at the door who is banging on the door, and he takes time to open the door. And by the time he takes this particular time to open the door, this man is really angry, and we see once he opens the door that this is a soldier, and he takes hold of Joe's camera and opens it, pulls out the film and crumbles the film. Now Joe was really clever. He had actually hidden the actual film in which he took the photograph of the tank man. Now that is the first thing. The time moves on. 20 Time moves on 21 years ahead. The young correspondent, now in his early middle age, he is on a plane along with his writer Mel. They start talking with the co-passenger Tessa Kendrick. We see a lady sitting like beside them, and she is like ordering drinks upon drinks. They start talking with her, and then Joe ends up striking a friendship. They they talk and they realize that she too is going to China. Joe reaches China and there he goes to meet his friend Zhang Lin, and they also go to the hotel from which Joe had taken the photograph years ago. Now, while there, Zhang Lin says to him that no, don't take the photograph of this particular place. Joe doesn't bother much with what he's saying, and he takes one photo. And as he's getting ready to take the second photograph, there was a man who was standing on the street. He had this umbrella with him. He crosses the road. He stands before the building in such a way that the opened umbrella, like blocks the view of this particular hotel. And Joe understands that this is a secret police officer who is really looking out there. Now, China is a place where censorship happens, and it happens in many forms, and this is one form of it. Then they, once this happens, they leave for the apartment. They go into Zhang Lin's apartment and they end up drinking together. Then his brother Wei enters, and Lin talks of his brother Wei, who works at a cafeteria food making factory. There's a kind of factories where prepackaged foods are made. So Joe says that he had actually eaten this particular food when he came to China. That morning he ate only this, and he says that I have heard that the way these workers are treated are really bad. They have to sleep there and all. So our Lin replies that okay, my brother works in one such factory, but actually he gets really he gets paid really well. He earns around $10,000. That's how the conversation goes. And that and at that particular moment, As they talk, he talks of the unsung hero in the photograph of Tankman. Lin talks of this unsung hero in the Tankman photograph, and Joe learns that there is a possibility Tankman is still alive. This is when he gets the idea that he can actually do an article on this particular person. Now, the reason why Joe visited China was only to meet Lin and be with him and spend some time there with him. But it is only when Lin talks about the incidents, the 999 incident, that he gets the idea that, okay, I can actually make something out of this. I can actually find this guy and do an article, and this will be something which no one else have ever done. Even in the real world, no one has ever gone or done any interview of this particular person, because nobody to this day, maybe the Chinese government, other than them, nobody else knows who this man is, because even though there are six photographs, not even one of them shows his face clearly. And there are also high chances, due to the censorship policies of China, that this particular person may not even know that he is such a huge deal outside his country. That is, if he is staying all the time there. So he learns that there is a possibility of Tangman being alive, and he decides to do an article, and he learns that the name of this unsung hero is Wang Pengfei. That is, Zhang Lin, though not knowing him personally, came to know about this man after some time. Shang Wei visits them. Shang Wei is the brother of Zhang Lin. He visits them and he says that Wei says that he wants to take Joe on a treat. That he wants Joe to go back to when he go back to America, go and meet Benny, his son. And Joe go back to America after some that time. Like Zhang gives a treat to him. Then we see that Joe have gone back to America, and there he decides to do a piece on Tangman. Joe shares this idea with Frank, who is his editor, and Frank, just like any good sensed editor, he's really doubtful at first, because he knows that once the protest was over, the Chinese government has made it a point that they hunt down the people involved in it, and most of them and execute them. So there is a high possibility that Tangman is dead, and this particular person, this Chinese friend of Joe's, Lin, is actually pulling his legs. Now, later, Frank says, okay, you can look into it. But at that moment, Doreen, his PA, enters and she says that, okay, I did a simple search in the archives of the newspapers and I found out that actually Tangman is dead. There is a newspaper, American newspaper, and in it, Chinese correspondent. So these newspapers always have different kinds of correspondent, like people who will be reporting exclusively on this particular topic. That is, there will be sports correspondent. He will be talking about sports, giving news on sports. There will be an automobile one. Just like that, they had Chinese correspondent who wrote about news that may have international values from China. And he had reported that the Tang man is actually dead. Now Joe is taken aback. Like he just heard that from his friend there is a possibility this particular person is alive. And there is also a possibility that this particular person, just like many people in the 1999, may have escaped to America fearing what the government may do to them. So this is what mainly makes Joe take up this particular idea. He thinks that maybe this man is alive and he can get back his fame by interviewing him. So he feels really sad. He goes out of the office, and when he go and see the reporter, he learns that actually that was a fake news. He says that this is something most newspapers do, where they may be having a particular correspondent in a particular place, and time to time they may give these fake news. Someone may write these fake news which may no nobody may be caring about. Like, just think of it. There are many cases. That may be the case of an honor killing. It may be a case of a rape. It may be case of a sexual assault. We all would be putting on tags and talking about it. Like for what? 1 week, 2 week. We will even forget about these things after some time. And the newses, if we will notice, we will realize that during the beginning time, a better example is during the beginning of April, May, and all, the count of patients, the number of patients who are getting affected, used to come in the first page. Now, as we look, it has gone into the sixth or seventh page. Just like that, this particular news came in inside pages. When this incident happened and there was this photograph, people were really happy to look at this guy, know what happened in China. Then, after a time, when this newspaper wanted some new, there would be blank spaces to fill it. They wrote a fake news of Tangman dying, and nobody cared till Joe Scofield came across this news and he decided to investigate. That's when this is revealed. The correspondent says that it was not he who wrote it, some other person wrote it, and the newspaper just decided to make it look authentic and added the name of their Chinese correspondent. Then, the same day, Joe meets Tessa, and audience realize that we see that while on plane that Tessa, though she is a tough lady, she is a really confident woman, just like any other person, like not based on gender or anything. For a person who is on a aeroplane, she gets flight sickness. She is really scared, and Joe helps her with her scare by having sex with her. And we realized that happened on the plane, since and Tess had actually emailed him saying let's meet, and Joe had taken up on that offer. We also see that there is a slight camaraderie forming between them. They are becoming friends slowly. But Joe being Joe, it ends up in a fight. So what led to the fight was actually Tess wanted him to give one of his photographs to her to be used on the credit card, to be pasted on the credit card. Now, to Joe, all of these photographs, he's a war photographer, and all of these photographs, though some of them may look beautiful, it is not so. Because she wants a particular photograph in which there are three children and they are fishing. The photograph looks beautiful, but the problem is they are fishing in the most polluted river of that particular country. So there is a pain behind that photograph, and Joe doesn't want to make profit out of pain of others, selling pain of others. And this leads to fight. Also, Joe had actually thought this is going to be a date, which it isn't, and Tess actually had mentioned that this is just for business purpose, and he thought that she was joking. So that may also have added up to Joe becoming really angry with her and leaving. Yeah, he did pay for what he ate. Zhang Wei visits now. It moves on. Zhang Wei visits Zhang Lin and advises against his present way of living. Lin doesn't goes out. He just stays in his house and all. So he says that that's not good. And Joe is now on the search and he wants to know what is happening here. And he is on the search, whereas Frank wants him to cover the presidential debate. And presidential debate, if you have seen the recent media and all, you know how important it is. It's a really big deal for Americans. They are at a dive bar and there they meet Maria and David. Maria is a senator and David is her legislative assistant. And it is made clear that Maria, Mel, and Joe know each other on a professional basis for a long time. Frank provides, and the same time, Frank calls him and says that okay, actually I have got some lead. You have to go to this particular strip club and meet Mary Chang. She may have some information that may help you. He goes to the strip club and he meets Mary Chang there and learns about the woman who put the advertisement which led to her being fired from the job. That is Feng Mei Hui. So he goes on search of her. No, before that she also do one thing. Mary Chang gives him a resume of hers to give to Frank because she thinks he's a do-gooder and will help her to get work in his newspaper. Now Joe takes it. Joe never gives it to Frank. And yeah, she says that how she was cheated into coming to America and do the stripper job. And all this while, Zhang is hallucinating about his wife. How, and in this hallucination, there is actually a story of how he found her, whereas it's just purely surreal dream happening. So one day he woke up and he realized that he want to get a new mattress, and he decided to buy one. He went out, and while in the market he saw a beautiful girl standing in a shop, and she is inspecting a refrigerator. He goes inside and he gets the refrigerator home. He plugs the refrigerator in and he opens the refrigerator to find that girl inside it. They end up making love on the floor, and that's when he realized that, oh, I went out to get a mattress and I never did. That's his dream. Now, what Lin is doing is he's actually recording all his memories about his wife, whether it's hallucination or not. He's recording every memories of her. His brother comes to give him second-hand dishes. Zhang Wei always checks upon his brother. He comes to him daily, talks to him what's happening and all. At the same day, Ming Xiaoli, the neighbor, comes and talks of how she was really happy when Lin and his wife had moved in as a couple at a very young age, and how she used to stay awake and listen to the sound of them making love because her husband never made love to her in a exciting manner. That is, then we see Tess coming to Joe's apartment. Joe really felt bad after saying all those things to her, so he invited her to his apartment and he lets her choose the photographs which she wants. And they talk of war, they talk about people affected by the war, the world, and children. And this is when we learn that Joe doesn't want to have any family because he's really scared of where the world is going and he doesn't want to bring a child into such a brutal world. And also he have anger issues and he's scared that he may end up physically assaulting his child if he is in an anger mood and child does something. Yeah. Then Tess talks of how she in New York. This is actually happening in New York, and she's new in New York. She doesn't have any friend. The only friend she has is actually a drug dealer, a speed taking drug dealer, and he wants to have some new friends. So therefore, making clear that she is coming to meet Joe on the basis of being a friend. She also says that while in China, she realized that Chinese can actually control their weather. That is a fact. I checked it up and it's true. Chinese people, or the Chinese government to be exact, can decide when they want rain and when they don't want rain.